Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production Channel here at YouTube. Welcome to another Metaltober episode. This one, last one was classic bands. This one, I'm gonna be showing some classic metal bands that I was definitely getting to at the time of either 2008 to 2009. So this one will probably be titled Journey into Classic Metal Bands then. Just like the last one was titled. There's definitely going to be some slightly obscure ones in here, but not really too obscure because of you still would recognize these names. But at the time, some of these bands I was definitely new to. So with that, without further ado, let's definitely get in. First band was definitely one I was getting to at the time of 2008. That, of course, was Merciful Fate. This is the only album I still own from them, of course, being Don't Break the Oath. Just a classic album, and put it on again earlier this week or so, and it still is a great album. I've done many episodes on this album. I've talked about it many times. I don't need to talk about it anymore. Other than it still is a classic album. Even at times, if it's not nearly as good as Melissa, it still is a great album from Merciful Fate. So with that, it's a great classic heavy metal record that I was definitely getting into, though I was listening to more Melissa at the time of 2009. That album I definitely started to even more appreciate as the more I spent with that album. So, it's a good album. Another one was at the real tail end of 2008 and early 2009. Of course, was Twisted Sister. This was a band I neglected to actually bring up in my classic bands video. Again, I was getting into like Under the Blade and, of course, Stay Hungry. Both these two albums I was listening to quite a bit. I only heard a few songs from like You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, but I didn't really get to really listen to most of that album until way later. But these two albums right here were definitely great. Though I still prefer Under the Blade for its real raw, sort of unpolished, sort of in-your-face kind of attitude that this brought in with this sort of almost like new wave of British heavy metal kind of feel to that album here. But Stay Hungry, it still has some good tracks. The title track being one, Burn in Hell, The Heart, Tyria, the beginning for both songs, Captain Howdy and Street Justice, The Price, Don't Let Me Down, The Beast, and of course SMF. Those are pretty much most of the songs I really like off this one. The only two being that I don't care much for is pretty much the most overplayed songs off of these, and you know which ones they are. Kind of like the same feel I kind of felt with British Steel from Judas Priest. There, yeah. Still, though, it's definitely a great album, though, from them, but definitely due to Tom Werman's sort of slightly polished production, it definitely takes away the sort of raw and heaviness that some of these songs definitely would have had, given when stacked up against this album right here. Yeah, so, still, definitely a band I was getting to right at that time. Another band, of course, I was starting to get into was Riot. Of course, the first song I ever really heard from them was the song Thundersteel. And that definitely always, of course, that artwork, while cheesy, always stuck to me. It was just one that I always kind of recognized, and when I really started to get into them, was actually not with really the Thundersteel album, even though the song was the first track that I ever heard from them. What really got me really into them was actually with Born America, when Rhett Forrester, the late Rhett Forrester, was singing for him, and this album is still fucking great. There is still not a bad song on this one. Even the cover of Cliff Richard's Devil Woman is still pretty good as well, just done in the right way. And of course, and then I started really getting into the two Guy Speranza albums, being of course Narita and Rock City. Both these two albums are great, though Narita is still a great album. Definitely at times better than the first one, but nothing to take away from the power that Rock City definitely had. Definitely one stacked up against the fact that this was released in 1977, and this was definitely some metallic stuff for 1977. But 1979 was definitely where they really started to realize more of their sound here. Definitely with many great songs. 49er, Kick Down the Wall, their great cover of Born to Be Wild. The title track, which is definitely should be up there as one of the best instrumentals. It should be. Here We Come Again, Do It Up, Hot for Love, which is a fucking great ripper of a track. And of course, White Rock and the undeniable Road Racing. So you get many great songs on here. On this one, get other good ones like Desperation, Warrior, the title track, Overdrive, Angel, Tokyo Rose, Heart of Fire, which some of the songs, the riffs to Heart of Fire, I probably think that Metallica might have took a bit of inspiration for, especially like either No Remorse or Seek and Destroy, I want to say. Definitely taken a lot of influence from that track, and of course, Gypsy Queen's fine and all, and the last track, This Is What I Get. So, with that, great stuff. Now, I didn't really get to a lot of this band's material, but this is definitely an album I was really into at the time of 2009. Especially going into October. That, of course, was the debut from Wasp. Now, I purposely neglected to leave them out of the classic bands discovered because, in a way, they are definitely more of a classic metal band than a completely classic band. Even though they are definitely classic, they just, for some reason, I don't think Wasp ever really put themselves on a bit of a higher pedestal as some other bands like Motley Crue definitely would have been considered just in general as a classic band, but Wasp I always kind of felt were more tagged as a classic metal band. So actually, given the fact of this sound right here, it's like this is a fucking metal album through and through, and still the sound rocks to this day, and re-putting it back on, there's nothing bad on this album. Nothing. Of course, on the reissue, Animal Fuck Like a Beast is pretty much number one, but even I actually dig that track. And then there's just many great metal songs off this one. Even the bonus material on here just goes along with the actual album itself. And I think one of the best bonus tracks off this album has to be Show No Mercy. What a heavy, fast track Show No Mercy was, and really proved that Wasp were just more than just hair sort of glam band that the public was mostly trying to or the press was trying to tag them as, especially after when you go watch like channels like, or at the time VH1 Classics on Metal Mania, which a lot of that was written with hair bands, and Wasp always got lumped in with there. But the song Show No Mercy is a fucking rip-roaring speed metal track, very much in line with anything that was metal that came out in the underground even at times. Like, it just had that real fast, thrashy kind of feeling. It's a fucking killer track, and vastly underrated. But either way, this is a great album still. There's the attitude and the whole feel. Wasp basically took the best from Judas Priest and combined it with the more bigger-than-life kind of shock value of Alice Cooper. So bringing that sort of element into it, and it was a great combination and made for a great album. Definitely into that one a lot. It's like nothing is, for me, nothing as nostalgic as the debut from Wasp. Another band I was definitely starting to get into at the time of 2009 was Anvil. And with albums like either Hard and Heavy, Metal and Metal, of course, Forged in Fire. All great albums. Nothing bad, really. Just classic metal here. Of course, Anvil, sadly, it was one of those bands that had the potential of being really big at the time of the 1980s, but never really got to that level, and sadly within the late 80s to the 90s and the 2000s, they sure pretty much they tanked in popularity. Though they still kept releasing some solid albums and some good ones, some alright here and there, but again, they stuck to their guns within that. But when at the time of 2009, that documentary was then released, this is the story of Anvil, something like that. That was then released, and they were starting to get popular again. Of course, with This Is 13, which I ended up thinking I picked up a copy like a year later from Walmart. Yeah. But, yeah, Anvil were definitely getting a now since it's 2018, you definitely could almost consider Anvil a classic band, but throughout the time, they definitely were just considered a bit of a classic or cult metal band. But still, nothing is bad on this album. This is a great album from Anvil. Nothing more than a great one. Of course, being produced by the now late, Chris Sangarides. Great album from Anvil. And of course, the last band I was definitely starting to really get into at the time, or was about to, was Metal Church, the debut. And this is just great stuff. Nothing bad about this one. I've talked about it before. Not a bad song on this album. This is a classic metal album through and through. Beyond the Black, the title track, Merciless Onslaught, Gods of Wrath, Hitman, In the Blood, My Favorite Nightmare, Battalions, and of course, their good cover of Highway Star. So with that, it's a great album from Metal Church, and a classic for sure. So that's that. That's pretty much all the classic metal albums I was definitely getting to at the time from really mid 2008 to 2009. So with that, the video after this one, or the last two, will be featured on some rather obscure ones. Well, on the last two, there's 3 others still. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this one. Once again, Metaltober is just going to keep rolling on. So until then, this is it for the rest of the day. I'm out, and I'll see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.